Hello everybody, welcome to the Gaming Grappler, and for today's video, I'm going to be reviewing movies. I'm going to be talking about Nobody. Why? This is usually a channel dedicated to talking about video games and MMA content, but after seeing Nobody, it was one of my favorite films of 2021, and probably the best movie I've seen in the last 3 years. So I just said, fuck it, we're doing movies now. So without further ado, let's get started. I just want to say that if you know nothing about what Nobody is or what this movie is even about, I strongly recommend just going into the movie blind. This movie is so entertaining if you have as little context as possible going into it. I just showed some of my friends this movie without telling them what it was, and they loved every second of it. It's just really subversive and quite frankly fucking hilarious. But throughout the duration of this review, and for the rest of this review, there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So you've been warned. Just take my word for it that this is a fucking amazing movie. And just go watch it and then watch this review after that. But if you've already seen it already, let's get into this review. And without further ado, let's begin. What is Nobody? Nobody is a action movie starring Bob Odenkirk. Yes, this same Bob Odenkirk from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. You think he wouldn't be suited to the role, but he just kills it here. As a matter of fact, it's thematically accurate that the same guy who played Saul Goodman would be playing this type of character. It's part of what makes the movie so good is seeing somebody that doesn't look like an action hero become an action hero. Bob Odenkirk in this movie has this Chad Dad energy that just makes the movie just so fucking awesome. And one of the reasons why I love this movie, I'm just going to be upfront, I love a good action movie. Action is one of my favorite genres of film. I have no shame about that. I've loved action movies ever since I was 6 years old. Basically, ever since I could become self-aware, speak language, and comprehend what I'm seeing on a film screen is when I started liking action movies. It's something deep and primal about me that makes me love these movies. And some of my favorite action movies, I like to think I got pretty good taste. I know I'm still talking out of my ass here, but some of my favorite action movies are films like The Raid 1 and 2. They're both pretty good. The first Matrix movie, John Wick 1, Shoot 'em Up, and anything done by John Woo. I love a good action movie. I love a good stylish action movie. What makes a good action scene is something that a lot of film directors haven't been getting in the last 20 years, which is that everything needs to be visible and viewable on screen. I fucking hate shaky cam. Shaky cam is basically the director admitting that they don't like action or they're not competent enough to showcase it on screen. There is rarely any good time to be using shaky cam. It only works in some scenes where you're not supposed to see what's happening or what is happening is vague. It's used very well in horror type situations, but for the most part, there's very little time when shaky cam actually works. It worked in Saving Private Ryan, and that's because the opening of that movie was supposed to be a chaotic mess. But for the most part, all my favorite action movies have no shaky cam. Everything you want to see is clearly displayed on the screen, and that is the case in Nobody. All my favorite action movies, like I'll give you an example here. What makes Shoot 'em Up such a fantastic action movie is the creativity on display. And what everybody loves about a good action movie protagonist is that they're usually badass and cool and pretty indestructible. They know all the best martial arts. They can do all these crazy acrobatic flips. But Shoot 'em Up takes it to another level where the main character is that kind of person, but has to struggle while defending a baby in every fight scene. So that's how that movie becomes creative with its premise of having an invincible type of main character. Nobody is also pretty creative with its fight scenes, but I want to get more into why Nobody is such a good action movie. But you can have the best action scene in the world where you have top-of-the-line stuntmen performing some of the most groundbreaking choreographed fight scenes. None of this will matter if there are no emotional stakes in the fight scene. A good fight only matters when it matters, just to say things bluntly. And in Nobody, they make it matter. At the start of Nobody, we don't know anything about our main character, Hutch Mansell, played by Bob Odenkirk. His day-to-day life is a boring grind. Every day is identical to the last day. He starts his day with a shitty cup of coffee, eats the same thing for breakfast every day. He always forgets to take out the trash. He goes to work on his bus. He's so emasculated at this point that his wife gets to take the car while he's stuck taking the bus. And he does his boring 9-to-5 job where he's typing around on his computer like a monkey. And he gets sworn at by his asshole bosses all the time. And he does this day in and day out. His routine is so rigid, so boring, so passionless. It has internally killed the guy. When the guy goes to bed at night, there's a pillow between him and his wife blocking them out of frame. That is how loveless and passionless his life is. That's his life in a nutshell. But then through circumstance, something happens. His house is broken into at the middle of the night, but this is not where the action starts. It's broken into in the middle of the night, and he pretty much lets these two criminals get away with it. They leave pretty much unharmed. Nobody gets hurt in this, but he is distraught about the fact that somebody just broke into his house. He's more distraught, though, that he just kind of let it happen. So he investigates the break-in. He starts using his detective work, and over the course of this period, we start to find out a little more about Hutch Mansell. Hutch Mansell is not a regular guy. This guy, as we're about to find out and discover, is a kind of secret agent type of person. In his past life, before he retired and started a family life in a boring suburban neighborhood. As a matter of fact, there's a song in the original soundtrack called Suburban Dystopia by David Buckley. And before he did that, he was a secret agent working for the government. And it's heavily implied that what he did was under the table, black ops type of stuff, where he was a hitman and assassin type of person who went and did shady shit like killing criminals under the table. But after that, he goes and investigates the break-in for his house, and he finds out that the people that broke into his house were not the criminal psychopaths that he thought he was. They were people down on their luck. They didn't want to be doing it. They needed money to save their starving or dying child. That's pretty much the plot point. And then he just realizes, fuck. What I like about Hutch Mansell is that he's a character that he's a good guy, but he's not that good. He's mostly primarily motivated by his own passions and selfish desires. But he does need to have the moral high ground in order to partake in a good gunfight or an action sequence, but it's really the bare minimum. He needs the bare minimum moral high ground in order to get it going. There's a moment where he's on his way home after pretty disappointingly finding out that the people that broke into his house were not as evil as he hoped they turned out to be. Yes, that's right. Hutch Mansell is the type of guy to hope that he's surrounded by evil, so he has an opportunity to fight evil. So he's sitting in a bus on the way home, and he's just sitting there completely irritated and angry. And then there's a moment where a gang of Russian gangsters just decides to get on the bus and start harassing a young woman. And it's at that moment where the song starts playing called I Gotta Be Me by Stephen Lawrence. And you just see him get up and he walks towards the end of the bus. He takes the cell phone out of the hands of the bus driver, tells her to get on the bus, and says, "Don't call 911." And it's at that moment he says, "I'm gonna fuck you up." This entire scene, this fight scene on the bus, is completely cathartic. It's cathartic because we've seen how much Hutch hates his life. He hates his 9 to 5. He hates there's no passion in his life. He hates that he is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And he dresses like that. This is a character the entire movie who dresses like some kind of dad. He goes on the bus. He wears shitty clothes he bought from Walmart. But here he is sitting here, a wolf in sheep's clothing with a golden opportunity to get out there and be himself. That is what this film is about. This film is about following your passions, doing what you were meant to be doing, not what you're supposed to be doing. There's a lyric in the song that I just mentioned, I Gotta Be Me by Stephen Lawrence, where it says, I gotta live, not just survive, or something like that. And that's what the film's about. And in this fight scene, it goes through these themes beautifully. He starts off the fight scene, and Hutch is out of practice, which is pretty accurate. I've done a little bit of martial arts in my life, and any MMA guy will tell you, any professional MMA guy will tell you that ring rust is a real thing. If you stop practicing or training fighting, your timing will be off, your power will be off, everything will be off, your footwork will be off, your ability to fight will be greatly diminished, but all that training you did in the past is still there somewhat. You'll still be able to pull on your own skills, but they will be heavily diminished. And at the start of the fight, Hutch starts getting a bit of an ass whooping. He gets hit a few times, he gets stabbed at the beginning, but then he starts coming back. All the training he did as some sort of secret Black Ops, secret agent, slowly starts coming back. He starts getting the drop on all of the Russian gangsters. He starts winning the fight. He starts beating the fuck out of them. There's a moment where he starts hanging a dude with a Percy fine. He's using the environment to his advantage, and he's beating the shit out of everybody. Then there's a moment where he gets thrown out the bus. And this is when I fell in love with this movie, and that I knew that this was going to be a really amazing movie. He gets up, he's on the ground after just being thrown out of the bus. He's covered in blood and shards of glass. He's still limping because he just got over getting stabbed in the fucking kidney probably. He limps to the bus. The bus lady asks, okay, will you call 911? He goes, no. He opens the bus, he gets back on the bus, and he begins to beat the ever-loving fuck out of the rest of the Russian gangsters. There's something about that. The whole movie is about catharsis. It's about a catharsis in following your passions after a lifetime of following things that you didn't like doing, that you had no passion in, and then finding an outlet for that type of passion. And that first fight scene lives up to the entire theme of the movie. And as the movie goes on and on, Hutch begins more and more competent. He begins to recall more of his old training. He becomes better at fighting, and he becomes more of a John Wick type of character by the end of the film. And what I love about that so much is that it shows that over the course of the movie, he slowly becomes unstoppable by following his passion. It's the catharsis. It's what makes him good. And that's why I love this movie so much. So go watch Nobody. It is one of the best movies I've seen in a while. Fuck it, the best movie of 2021 in the last 3 years. Go see it.